every black person likes fried chicken. I like fried chicken, but
Girl.
leave the fried chicken alone.
Welcome back to the First Gems, where culture, creativity, and the come up collide. Today, we're unpacking something that's been bubbling for a while: how first gen stories are being told in the media. From film and TV to music videos and viral sketches, we're seeing more depictions of people like us, kids of immigrants, navigating culture, identity, and belonging. But with visibility comes questions. Who's actually telling these stories? Are we being represented or just repackaged? And how do we feel when we finally see a piece of ourselves on screen, but it's a little off? Let's get into it.
I'm
Hey,
ready.
Tanina girl.
Hey girl, hey girl, hey! It's just you and I today.
I know. Shout out to the, what we call ourselves, the shorties, the smallies, the young
What?
blood.
When did we ever? The minis.
No, it's all good. And yes, I'm doing well, but we needed to have this conversation like yesterday.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I feel like um, so much has been popping up on TV and just things that we've been chatting about, around this whole identity politics around first gens. So, yeah, I just wanted us to come together and talk a little bit about it and get into the nitty gritty. There's just a lot of questions floating out there, and I just um, wanted the gems to really dive in on this topic. It's all about things that we do too.
Yeah.
So, when I was ideating on this topic, I was thinking again, like, what we're seeing on TV, what we're consuming these days in media, how there's, this push for creative storytellers to really dig deep on who they are, where they come from, their heritage or culture. So let's start off with just like a quick question. What is one show or movie that you feel like somehow, some way describes your life?
Ooh.
I'll answer it too, but
That's a,
I'm curious to know if we
yeah.
have the same same answer.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I think there's two. There are two shows where and as I get older, I'm like, oh my God, like this, I relate to it so much. And I think a lot of people do, which is why these shows are so beloved.
Hmm.
Definitely Insecure. I could see myself woven into a lot of characters in
Hmm.
Insecure. And then also Girlfriends.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, I didn't realize because when I was younger watching it and my mom would have girlfriends on, I would be like, oh, girlfriends. But now that I'm older, I'm like, oh my God, I'm a girlfriend.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
What
can't
about
tell
you?
you. I can't tell you how many times I will tell people like, "Oh, right now life is looking season 2 insecure."
Yes.
Tracking Issa, like that has been like the litmus test on how life is going. We hope to get to season 5 one day. We'll see. But it does get crazy, especially, we are past our 20s, but especially being in that time of like, oh my gosh, life is getting real, so many milestones and chapters, but like life in general and going through relationships and jobs and everything. It just feels so much more real when you do sit back and watch, like you said, Girlfriends. I can't even tell you how many times I've been like, oh yeah, it's a
Mhm.
Joan Clayton type of day.
Literally. And even some characters surprise me too, where I'm like, oh my God. Like I'm not really Lynn, but there are parts of Lynn that I am, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, because same.
Yes. When I was younger, I'm like, oh, she's just a hot mess. But I'm like, we're all a hot mess in our
Girl.
own way. And like, I feel like there's a split part of me who, like, I want to be Joan in the sense of like, I got my stuff together, blah, blah, blah. But I've always felt empty in the love area. And then there's
Mhm.
part of me where it's Lynn, where it's like, F the system. Let me just be free and just be my like
Yeah.
chill self. Like I'm in my own world. So in that aspect, definitely.
Yeah, and I think like, and we'll talk about this, but even just the development of these characters, right? Like the archetypes and who they represent, and then being able to see them develop. Both, I'm talking about both Insecure and Girlfriends. Like there's an evolution of each of these characters that makes them feel that much more real and that much more relevant to us as we're on our own journeys. And I feel like even when we were, young little teeny boppers, I felt like we each just had our own journey or just, phases that we were individually experiencing, but being able to come together and like friendship and jolly good old times. I was like, oh, we're just like our own version of Insecure. We're our own version of the Girlfriend Show. I even thought way back in the day, like the Proud Family. That felt like
Yes.
me at that time in like,
Yeah.
elementary, middle
And we knew the
school.
Cheetah Girls was always our
So
that always hit.
Cheetah Girl.
Period.
Didn't hit that quite. But yeah, so that's why I wanted us to have this conversation because there's just so many different angles that relate to our brand, and I'm sure our listeners can agree, especially being in the millennial Gen Z, regardless of where you are on that spectrum. There's just a lot that influence us in media, but then our lives also influence the art that comes through. So yeah, let's get into it, girl. This whole first gen boom that has been popping up lately, we were just talking about this where I was like, everybody's talking about identity these days. Everyone is really
Yes.
shouting out their roots, their culture, where they're coming from. People taking DNA ancestry tests to figure out where on the continent they're from. We just seen Sierra; she's on the continent right now too. Like, so
Yes.
there's I would say like now more than ever, a lot of people are displaying cultural pride, if that's the thing to say, but in a way that feels kind of like how music is influential. Like people are really just putting their culture on and creating new businesses, new brands, new experiences solely on that, partnerships even. So,
Mhm.
quick question too, like do you think that the term first gen is like truly its own category, or do you think it's more of like a buzzword that's like becoming like the new sexy thing?
That's a good question. I still think it's its own category. I feel like a lot of people still don't unless you're first gen, I don't think it's really permeated in like our culture society to where people who aren't first gen really understand that aspect of the word, because first gen can apply to like, oh, I'm the first generation in my family to do X and Y thing, but culturally, like,
True.
I don't think it's that popular per se to where it's like a widely known concept. So I think it's definitely a category, and it's trending, but I still don't think the word first gen is like its own widely known buzzword right now. What about, do you feel the same or?
Yeah, like when we first started with the first gems, I remember having like a conversation with someone and they were like, oh, okay, so you guys are first gens, so it's about like education and college readiness, right? And I was like, no, we're all college educated, yeah. And I don't think between all of us that we were the first to go to college, in our respective families. So yeah, I think being able, like having to explain to folks as we were building this to say the first gems, first generation millennials dropping gems, right? But even then, within that, we had to come out and say like, it's all about culture, cultural representation, and like building community with other folks who are kids of immigrants. And shout out to the brand called Kids of Immigrants. There were other sort of north stars or inspirations that brought us to the name. And so I agree with you. I feel like it's still a time where people like society, like across the board, are understanding exactly what like this sort of niche thing is. But I think to the other side of me feels like a lot of pop-up events and a lot of media, like just a lot of things I'm seeing on screen come with like, oh, I'm a daughter of immigrants. I'm a first generation Latina
Yeah.
XYZ. I'm a first generation this. So I do see a lot of that on the forefront. And I think like, okay, for example, we were talking about Insecure just a second ago. Yvonne Orji comes to mind, right? Where
Hmm.
she was doing a lot of like her comedy sketches around growing up with immigrant parents that I'm sure
Hmm.
we've talked about a number of times in our episodes. And so I think with all of that comes the next thing of like representation fatigue and what that means. And I don't know, I've always had this thought in my head around, okay, if we're gonna sit here and say we're the first gems, we're talking about first generation millennials, we've gotten everyone to understand exactly what angle we're focusing on. All the immigrant stories feel like they're starting to sound the same, right? Where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I had strict parents and we did this and they
Yeah.
told me to be a doctor and I didn't want to, so I did this and I rebelled and now I'm this successful creator. Um, you know, blah say blah. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I first of all, with you too, like does that resonate? You feel the
No, it
same?
does. No, no, I do feel the same. I notice it even with our own content, and shout out to us, our future selves in season 4, kind of breaking that surface level conversation. And I think we've been able to kind of lightly pass the surface, but I am fatigued by those recycle conversations, partly because like we have those conversations a lot ourselves as
Yeah.
being storytellers, and like we probably are faced with that conversation way more than the average person, including things that we see on social media and things like that. So it's very, very prevalent in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel that representation fatigue from that angle, but I think there's so much nuance to growing up as a first generation, and
Mm-hmm.
there's so many other stories weaved into there that I don't think like culturally we've largely like scratched the surface, or breaked beyond the surface to uncover those things, which makes it interesting to see what comes out next.
Yeah, like I'm just gonna say I'm tired of the jollof wars. Like
Yeah, oh gosh.
I'm tired of the content that's like who got the best jollof. At least just try the food, see how you feel about it, and say next. I know I'm also a perpetrator of such. Shout out to Nigeria, but
Yeah.
I think
You just did it.
I gotta rep the home country. No, no, but on a serious note, I feel like while it is a great, and I've been to some events that have done it really well, right? Where they really invite people to learn more about the culture. Because just as we're saying, as I think for us and where we stand in the work that we do, we have an opportunity to see it saturated and just like become fatigued around it. But every single time I'm seeing that people are trying Jollof for the first time, people still don't know what that is. People don't know the
Yeah.
origin. People don't know the history. So on one hand, it is important to get these perspectives out on a global scale, but I feel like I don't know. It's like a balance. Like I'm just like, okay, I'm
Mhm.
tired of it, but then it's like, okay, well, what are you gonna do to push it forward? Like, how are we innovating?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's
I
where
even think it
oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I even think it starts with our response to it too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have people come up to me talk about jollof wars, and I'm like, well, I ain't tried every jollof that exists, but in order to not feed into this, and I used to feed into it, but now I'm just like, oh, they're all good. They do something a little bit different,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm sure it's good. It sounds good,
Wait, have you
you
tried
know,
all of them?
because I feel like
Is that what you said?
no, I said I have not.
Oh,
No, no, I said I have not tried all of them, but
well,
I wouldn't feed into it and be like, well, that's why Nigeria's the best because
yeah,
it's like, girl, I haven't tried all of them. So it's
that
like
makes
that's a
sense.
way to, as an individual, kind of not feed into it is to kind of counter it with like just openness and positivity about all the others, or even using that as a gateway, like you said, to educate people and be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, like this country does it like this, they add this because back in the days, X, Y, and Z, A, B, C. I
Mm-hmm.
just gave myself some homework.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, since I'm still in my complaining mode, I will say another thing that really kind of gets my eyes rolling a little bit is like a lot of the TikTok content that I'm seeing around like, um, gosh, I don't remember the name of the creator, but he'll like prank his immigrant parents. And like, I've just been seeing a lot around like, I don't know, where people make slapstick
Pranks?
comedy. Yeah, like
Is
pranks
it
or just
pranks? Oh yeah.
yeah, or just playing off of the ignorance of, or just like the lack of awareness that some of our parents have, just because they've been
Mm,
here for a while in in their respective countries, but like they still don't know everything, right? So when people turn that
mhm.
type of content into like just for silly humor, right? I'm like, I can't see myself. I mean, maybe it's just a personal thing because I just can't see myself trying to prank my dad, like just for some views
Yeah.
or do something that's like, oh yeah, you don't know nothing about this or something. I don't
Yeah.
know if that makes
I
sense.
tried one of those pranks. It did not work. It was like a text prank. My dad was sending me like paragraphs on this and that, how a daughter should approach her father. I'm like, Dad,
Oh
it's a
no.
joke. I said that like 10 texts ago. so so yeah, definitely interesting when people get an opportunity to do that and get away with that. I would say from that aspect, I'm not really like I don't really have a strong stance on it, but I think with the general conversations like whose Jollof is better or like whose this is better and like trying to make it a divisive thing, that's where I'm kind of like I feel like comedy kind of brings people together sometimes.
Hmm.
And I feel like when it's the latter and it's not based on comedy, it's about competition. I think that's where
Mm.
it gets a little bit like, okay, like
Yeah.
we're down.
I guess for me, like it's really just about what is the message that's being portrayed. Like if it comes up like it can be comedy and I can get a chuckle out of it. I don't know if you've seen those videos of those I guess they're in the UK or something and they're like walking on the streets telling like these random like uncles and aunties like, yes, you are the sacrifice, and they be like throwing baby powder at them like
No.
there's a lot of,
That was
hyper
good.
religious and all that stuff, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
yes, you can get a chuckle out of it, but I guess there's like a borderline of, okay, for someone who doesn't understand the context, how are they going to portray people that look like our parents? If it's putting them in a light of like, they don't know better, they're unsuspecting, or just pure ignorance. I think some content that I've been seeing has been a little too far. So it
Yeah.
just becomes like performative versus I think what we were trying to say is like what's educating, what's the educational type of content to put out that's still entertaining versus just
Mhm.
entertaining just to get a laugh out of someone else's demise or like
Mhm.
you know.
Exploiting your immigrant
Thank
parents.
you. Thank you. On the next season, we're going to talk about how
Right.
a lot of first gens are exploiting their own parents for content. And that's where I'm saying I'm drawing the line. Y'all can make me laugh all
Yeah.
day. I feel like there's beauty in knowing that there's a lot that we can relate to as first gens. But don't have your parents out here looking crazy on the internet just for a chuckle and a dime.
Yeah.
That's the better way to say it. Um, yeah. Um, yeah, I'm on that note too. I think overall, one thing I want us to talk about in general is like the difference of being seen versus being understood. And that's kind of what I was getting at as well with the whole like rise of content surrounding first
Mhm.
generation and kids of immigrants discourse. But I think it's important when we have conversations around media in general and how we're consuming media. Um, I went to school and did my African American studies degree, had a lot of experience in understanding Black representation in media and how important it is to shine an accurate light on the experiences of African Americans in country and across the world. So I think the same carries over with as we're talking more and more about this, growing interest in first generation, millennials, our perspective essentially. And so Yeah, I'm just thinking about what we had said around Insecure, and like the beauty around it was because of Issa Rae's genius and being a first gen, I think she's just able to really make relatable content that doesn't feel exploitative. Do you get me on that? Like, I
Yeah.
think when I was doing like a deeper dive into who she is and her background and, you know, her being first generation Senegalese, Insecure wasn't all about like the tropes of, it wasn't even about that. It was about LA, right? And growing up in LA.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
because her perspective is like making people feel seen, making even like businesses. I love how she would subtly shout out like all of the landmarks of LA. Like you would
Hmm.
we see ourselves in in
Yeah.
the series across, you know, each season of like, oh yeah, she's at Leimert Park and she works there. And she
Yeah.
doesn't have to be like, and here in Leimert Park where this and this happens.
Yeah.
So I think there's just like a beauty, like the subtlety of art that can be portrayed where we could feel like, hey, you get it, you understand, and that message like comes through. So I don't know. I think that's also I'm on my soapbox about a lot of things in this, but I'm just curious if you have that same inkling or any like pieces of art that you feel does that too, or like people who are like directors or screenwriters who also have like a good way of making people feel seen and understood.
Yeah. I do think that there's a difference between being seen and being understood. I think obviously in order to get to the point of understanding, you got to be seen first. But I think it can be negligent when it just stops at the scene because it's like, okay, like here y'all in the movie, dang, or y'all in the show,
Mm-hmm.
dang. But there's no care after that to like deconstruct like, oh, why is this happening? Why how did this culture arrive here? Blah blah blah. I think when you break through the surface level conversations and the topics that we discussed about earlier, that's how we arrive at like understanding. And once something is understood, then it can be appreciated. So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely see a difference, and I think that it can't just stop at being seen. It has to reach understanding, and you would hope that people themselves reach a level of appreciation. And yeah, I think you shouting out Issa Rae and how she's able to do that through media. I also feel the same way. Like, um, I'm not just a Nigerian American woman, I'm a Black American woman. So just, I've seen myself through her storytelling, even back to Awkward Black Girl days. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
girl.
I just think it's just done so thoughtfully. And I think you can still cultivate a place of having meaningful conversations that derive from your art without this cringy shock value
Mm-hmm.
thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's exactly that. Literally. I feel like it's been done so many times that it's like it's possible for you guys to not put out art that is not just like we were just saying earlier, slapstick just for the shits and giggles for lack of a better term. But I think it's important. Like character tropes do matter in stories, especially when they're centered around representation. Another Issa Rae example would be like rap shit. Like, yes, it was a funny series that was cut way too short, in my opinion. Um,
Mhm.
but I think the underlying stories of like, oh, so this gives me an understanding of what like the Haitian American or Haitian diaspora folks in Miami go through on a day to day, or just Miami culture in general. You know, like she just does a great job of giving you everything um, without devaluing it too. Does that make
Mhm.
sense? Like
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah,
like
it
things
does.
are just portrayed accurately, and for someone like myself who was like taking it in with no real like context, um, I could appreciate it. So I think that's where it is, and I've, you know, I just feel like there's just ways to do things better.
Yeah, I agree on there are ways that we can do things better for sure. But I also feel like with art, you don't always get it right. You don't always hit the mark. And I think that as consumers, I think there still needs to be a lens of grace there, but also like constructive criticism so that said artist can know how to navigate storytelling better so that it's more thoughtful.
Yeah.
It's more thoughtful. And that just kind of brings me to a place of like things being authentic and things being an aesthetic. The idea of tokenism and just putting someone who is of a certain background in a piece of art just to say that it's there or for the aesthetic of it, and even like cultural fusion. Like I've expressed many times on this podcast that I do like seeing projects that mix cultures, but I think there's a sense of responsibility that comes with doing that. So what's an example of something that tried to blend cultures and didn't land? Like, I know I feel like we've seen that a lot in media, but
Too many times. I'm gonna answer that question, but I think to your point earlier about tokenism, that is so important. Even again, just coming from media in general, we've seen too many times like the black sidekick, you know, the black best friend who has to be
yeah.
funny and abrasive and aggressive, like all of those stereotypes that are brought into some form of media, whether it's a show or a movie or whatever. And you kind of sit there and you're like, what was the purpose of putting this person in here? You know,
Hmm.
and to your question, that's exactly how I feel about, you know, the conversation surrounding Kiki Palmer and this new TV series that she has, Southern Fried Rice.
Hmm.
Yeah, what's going on with that?
Yeah, yeah. I feel I feel your sentiments. I feel your sentiments, and I saw the discourse happening with the show. And I'm the type of person I don't feel comfortable commenting on something that I haven't taken the time to consume. So yeah, I went in, I consumed it. I will say when it first started, like I wasn't 100% mad at it in the way that I've seen people rage over it. But I think it opens up a conversation of just what we talked about, accuracy and intentionality and care and consideration, etc. I can't even say like, oh, I get what they were trying to do because I don't get what they were trying to do. But I think that's a lens of first gen storytelling that we haven't necessarily seen too much, where it's like this culture. I love the cultural fusion aspect of it, but I think just like everyone else thinks, the story could have been written, delivered in a more thoughtful way that brings about more healthy conversations, understanding, and appreciation. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice way of saying what the hell is going on with that.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
But I agree with you 1,000%, Tanina. It's just with Southern Fried Rice and really taking the time to really watch it, because I felt like a lot of people across social media were livid about it. So I was like, oh, Kiki
Mhm.
Palmer, what's going on? Like, she's our girl.
Yeah.
So I was
Mhm.
like, okay, let's see what happens here. And I will say there were just a lot of things. First of all, I was hoping to get some more background into Coco, who's the main character, who was
Mhm.
adopted into a black family from South Korea. But then I'm thinking, like, we didn't even touch on that at all. It was just in the
Yeah.
beginning
Yeah.
of here she is, and now she's in the middle of Georgia.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, I thought there was going to be some elements about, adoption in South Korea, which is a real thing. There's a lot of like
Hmm.
controversy around that topic. There's a lot of, you know, just like stories that could be highlighted because of that. Like this is like a historical thing that does and has been happening for decades. Didn't touch on that. The HBCU experience, that's great, but centering an non-black person at a HBCU, it makes me question, okay, well, who is this for? And that's the thing
Yeah.
that like people who produce media, oh, like I thought that was like thing number one. Who was your audience?
Yeah.
Who is the intended
Yeah.
audience for Southern Fried Rice?
Yeah.
Because
I felt the same way about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think any of my first generation Asian friends would be interested. And not even because of all the other elements of, it being a majority black cast or black director on a black network. It's none of that. It's like the fact of here's this representation. Like it's like, here, dang, here's your representation without any
Hmm.
substance to it. There's no sauce, no salt,
Hmm.
nothing. And so I was
Hmm.
just so confused about the direction of that series. Um, and it was interesting when I was like, doing more digging into the inspiration behind it, like what the director, was trying to draw from. And she had just said this was from, inspired by her own experience going to an HBCU in Georgia, which is great. Again, you can draw inspiration from your real life. That's, life influences art, art influences life, vice versa.
Is she Asian American?
The director,
I
no,
didn't.
she's black.
Yeah, I didn't look. Oh,
She is a
okay.
sister. Now, which is why I'm
Okay.
saying, girl, what were you thinking?
Yeah. I feel like I don't hate the cross cultural collab. Not saying that, or fusion. Not saying that you are. I think this still could have been a thing if, and it could have been she was adopted by a black family. But I think if it's about knowing who she is, I think she should have been surrounded by people who are of her culture, because I feel like she would have been able to learn about what she didn't know. Like she could have been adopted by a black family, put in a PWI, well, PWA, I guess, or PAI.
What? What are
um,
these acronyms?
Look, cause
I don't know.
okay, she
I
could have
see what
been,
you mean.
yeah, yeah, she could have been put in a PWI or PAI, whatever, and been introduced to people of her culture who, like, let's say they're making references to their culture that she doesn't understand because she grew up in a Black American household. She didn't need the bamboo earrings or none of that, really. She still could have.
The
She
adult
still could
baby
have had that
hairs.
be the storyline without. Honestly, the fried chicken sent me. Once I seen the I hate. Oh my god! Whenever there's fried chicken in reference to trying to connect with, I just feel like that's so careless. Like, dang, not every black person likes fried chicken. I like fried chicken, but
Girl.
just leave the fried chicken alone. You can't do baked chicken or something. Like, just leave the fried chicken alone. Like, when I see the
Screaming.
fried chicken, it agitates me. But yeah, I still think it could have been a thoughtful story. She didn't need to be at a HBCU, to be honest. And if she was, I think I saw some content about her being a biracial character. Like if she was Asian and black, and let's say she grew up with her Asian side and she went to a HBCU to connect more with her blackness, like that makes sense to me. I feel like that's still telling a first gen story. You didn't have to blackfish an Asian person in
Exactly.
order to share the same message. So, yeah.
Yeah, I will say the casting was great. You know, that was a plus. Whoever designed the set, that was amazing. Their dorms were super dope. Costumes, designs, okay. But overall, it was just a lot of storylines. I felt like I was. Oh, the thing was though, because Kiki came out with a statement saying like, I support this young black director and her grind and making sure that majority of the people who even worked on this project to bring it to life were black. And I'm like, shout out to representation, black women
Hmm.
especially. But I think
Yeah.
this is where we were saying like that critique. if people are critiquing your piece of work, like lean in a little bit, and
Yeah.
really take in those notes, because even if this is drawn from real life inspiration, I just don't see why there was a need to lean so heavily on all of these like black stereotypes, down to her roommate
Yeah.
being Joy being her
That they did Joy dirty.
off. Just
They did
based
Joy
off of that
dirty.
alone, cancel it.
Yeah.
Like, stop.
Right. Pro black angry black. If you haven't seen it, pro black angry black woman who's child.
Just all the wrong things that they needed to put together,
Right.
just put that together. Um, yeah, it's just so many things that were problematic, to say the least. And again, when we're thinking about who is this piece of art or media or whatever, like who is this for? Because I can't tell you whether or not folks of um, Korean American descent, for example, should and would watch that and say, wow, I have a better understanding and accurate understanding
Mm,
of the Black American or Black HBCU experience, because it was just
mm,
laced with stereotypes. I would be
yeah.
mortified if I had, um, gone to South Korea and said, "Oh yeah, y'all go watch Southern Fried Rice. That'll tell you everything you need to know
That would be crazy.
about." Yeah, like just think about it in that way. It's not
Yeah.
okay. It was not
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Or even
Um,
for the Asian community. Like I'm not Asian, but I feel like I know that there is a lack of Asian representation in American media. So
yeah.
it's like to finally get this moment and be like, oh wow, like this is great. We're gonna be the main character in X show. And then you stumble upon that, like I'm sure that feeling has to be disappointing too. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's not to, like you said, it's not to bash the writer or director, etc. Like I said, I think when you put your art out there, people are going to have an opinion on your art, and you can either take it and transform it and evolve and be better, or you can leave it and just keep coming out with culturally insensitive content.
Or you can hire some creative consultants to give you some proper guidance.
Or that too, for sure. Do you think that the show can revive itself? If so, how? Like a
Um,
season two.
a season two, she needs to study abroad in South Korea. That's the only way y'all could save it, because
Yeah.
it was just too much of one thing, of, like I said, just being doused in every stereotype that you could find. Even to the point of the guys, like one of the guy, I guess the guy she was talking to was like he just had a fetish for non-black
Yeah.
women. Like, once we got there, I was like, Lord, take
Yeah.
her to South Korea, study
Yeah.
abroad. I don't even, did we even get to know what her major was? I don't even know. It didn't
No.
even talk about nothing involving school.
No.
Just take her out of her element and
Bro,
put her back
every
over
every single character in there needs a rewrite. Like
there.
they just do. I think Cordell's character wasn't bad. I just feel like we didn't get an opportunity to get to know like Cordell and her, like how'd y'all just meet each other and then y'all end up kissing randomly? Like I feel like where was the
Hmm.
and now he jealous, but he met you on Saturday. Like I just
Yeah.
that part was a little, but his character can be developed a little bit more. But yeah, I
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I, this is interesting. You know what I thought too? I was like, dang, am I too old to like relate to this content now? Like I just can't get
Mm,
like what is being shown to me. But then I
yeah.
remember we watched Forever, that series on
Oh
Netflix.
yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, I love this. This is so
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm not a part of that generation, or like the younger folks coming up, graduating high school now and going into college, but it's still a
Mhm.
human story that does not rely on surface level stereotypes to get a message across.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's so many different ways, and especially if it's like a comedy, you don't have to, like, again, to my point earlier, you don't have to make fun of something in a way that degrades it. Because there's
Mhm.
people who could be consuming your media who don't know otherwise, and they're going to take that as the thing, like
Yeah.
how people should be perceived. So, if nothing else, that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Mm.
But yeah, season
Yeah.
2, take her to Korea, please.
Yeah. That will make a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and I think we touched on a lot of things here. How, it's not just about the intention; it's about the accuracy
Yep.
as well. um, and just sometimes creativity can be downward disrespectful, and we can't just say like, "Oh, this was just creative expression," and cultural some level of cultural appreciation. It's not. We can
Hmm.
say that. We can be constructive about things, and we can also not tear down in the process. I feel like sometimes, even within the Black community, when we critique something, it can be disrespectful.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody receives or processes criticism in that way. So I think even as an audience, we can stand to change and be mindful of the way that we're delivering certain feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, did you ever watch that Netflix series? Talking about like proper Asian representation in media. What's it called? Always Be My Maybe. Did you ever watch that?
No.
It's
No.
so good. Again, just a great way to have representation on the front screen. Let me pull this up real quick. Yeah, of what do they call it? Dramedy, but like rom com dramedy. Um, we had Ali Wong, Randall Park, Keanu Reeves was in there, and I believe the director is also of Asian descent. So there are plenty. Like I said, this is not just to bash and like be angry or whatever. It's really just to say like with this whole push towards cultural representation, you know, we're now as a society becoming more and more comfortable with sharing the nuances of ourselves, our identities.
Mhm.
That is like a beautiful turn from how it was when we grew up, especially as millennials, going from being hidden to like now being fully visible and out there, and now creating to share, what it is to be from XYZ. But that's why it's even more of a reason to just be sensitive and
Mhm.
intentional. So there are
Yeah.
as many of things that there are that we're like, didn't really like it, didn't really care for it. There are still like so many more different pieces of art that have been put out there. Even what is that one called? That movie? Oh my gosh, Crazy Rich Asians. No,
Oh, I was gonna mention that. Yeah, Crazy Rich Asians. That's a movie. Yeah.
beautiful.
No, yeah, and I think that's a great example too, where the first gen stories don't always have to be struggle stories, y'all. Like it doesn't have to lean in on the struggles of being just in the way that there are other struggles that exist, but it doesn't have to lean into the stereotypical like, oh my parents were like this and that and all this stuff. Like there's more to it. So I do want to pose a question of like, what other first gen stories do you feel like we haven't seen yet that we need to bring to light, so that it's not this repeated cycle of like the same first gen narrative being retold over and over and over and over again?
Yeah. You know what I think of with that? I think about our own personal experiences, like through our dads, for example.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, and you let me know too, I wouldn't say that their experience of even emigrating to the US is like a struggle story. Like our dads were
Mm.
not seeking asylum. They were not escaping a war. Like they were, if anything, I get stories all the time about how my dad used to be driving in his dad's car to high school or something, like just being like this very posh, like cool kids on the block. And then we're like, all right, we're about to move over to the Western world and do it all over again. Like, while there were definitely some learning curves that they had to go through and adjust, I want to know more about that, like the excitement of being in a new city, a new country, but they still had each other, right? Like they still came up
Yeah.
with the people that they grew up with, just in a completely different space. And so I think about first gen stories about romance. I would definitely love to see more of that. That's why I say Always Be My Maybe is like, I love
Maybe
that
I have to watch
so
it.
much. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so good. I'm trying to think of others that are like first gen romance or comedies. Um, I will always say like movies like Sinners is really important, because although like Ryan Coogler, that was more of like a horror film, like vampire movie, but it was also like a historical timepiece film around like what it was like growing up in the Mississippi Delta in like the 30s, and even there you had different cultural representations all in a vampire movie. So I love like
Yeah.
multi-layered stories. I would love to see more of that. Um, I think so. In college, I was also really big on Afrofuturism, and just loved everything about that. Sci-fi, I love to see more stories of that. There's an author, Tomi Adeyemi, who wrote Children of Blood and Bone, and they are coming out with a film adaptation. I think Idris Elba's going to be on that, Damson Idris, a whole
Wow.
bunch of other people. But stuff like that, like those types of stories, maybe some dystopian stories, like just layer levels of reality, history, but also just like be imaginative. I think those are the spaces that I'm excited to see more stories come out. Because once again, that trope of like, this is the immigrant experience and that's it. Like it's one cookie cutter story, and if you don't fit into that, then it's not real. I don't think that
Yeah.
exists, and I think again, going back to what I said originally, that wasn't the experience, truthfully, for our own parents too.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
You you said it. That was good. Yeah. I would even see like things that are less complex and more lighthearted too, like if there was a girlfriend's version, but each person, I feel like what I see a lot, especially I'm gonna stick with like first gen stories across the Black diaspora because
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like the media that I'm usually initially drawn to. And I don't think that there's enough of that, to be honest. And I feel like when we do see a first gen in like American media, it's usually like a singular experience. Like it's
Yeah.
usually like the token Jamaican girl or like the token African girl. Like people still speak on Africa like it's a country and not a
Yeah.
continent. Um,
Wait.
so it's like, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I can't believe I forgot to say this in the beginning. I used to hate Soul Plane because of
Yes, oh
that
my God, Soul Plane. Down with Soul Plane. No pun intended. Like,
that one scene. Because people back in
it
the
was
day,
never funny.
they you gotta remember these were still the African booty scratcher days. So I'm just like,
Yes.
why? I don't even remember the whole scene, but just that the him being,
Ah, wah, wah.
yeah,
And his name was Gay Man.
like Godfrey or whatever that guy's name is. You know you wrong for that, because that's a whole generation and we just had to stick with dealing with that. But exactly to your point, you do not need that. It's so real. You do not need that
Yeah.
token person, even like the token Latino person who like Puss in Boots, like
Yeah,
that
for
type of
real. Yeah.
character. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
oh my
And
goodness.
people still use what annoys me about Soul Plane too, because we don't have enough representation in American media of like not even just first gen experience, like immigrant
Hmm.
experience of the diaspora that is not ignorant, they always use the soul, I like Soul Plane as a point of a frame of reference. I'm sure I've heard it like within the past year, that being brought up, like, oh, like, shut up.
Yes, exactly.
What? Like, yeah, yeah. So, and even when people talk about Black Panther, they bring up, oh yeah, like going to Wakanda. Wakanda's not a real place. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
I love Black Panther, but why does African excellence have to be imaginary? Like, just, I just, yeah. So I would love to see just some, it don't even have to be super complex. Some stories, multiple characters who are first gens in just like a casual, like a rom-com or something. But
Hmm.
like within the Black diaspora, you got a friend group, one's Jamaican, one's Nigerian, one's this. And I think that will also break the lack of knowledge when it comes to people who aren't within the Black diaspora,
Yeah.
who think that everybody is just African, or just everybody is like, there aren't different cultures within the Black community, because
Hmm.
I've still gotten that too all throughout college. Like, there was a Haitian girl in my hall, there was an Ethiopian girl in my hall, there was
Yeah.
me, and we were having a conversation, and one of my hallmates was like, wow, I didn't know there was like different types of Black people. And I was like,
Oh, Lord.
what? Like,
Different
yeah.
flavors.
So exactly. So it's all important, and it doesn't have to be in a predominantly Black film. Like, just mix it up.
Yeah. Girl, I feel you. I feel you. Absolutely. Okay, yeah. So I think at this point in the conversation, like we've really talked about a lot as far as what first generation like representation has been for us growing up, what it looks like now, and sort of just like the nuances in between of like, sure, there are all these like instances of surface level stereotypes that are still being permeated. But I really do think that there is a conscious effort now and moving forward to produce real content of real stories and like, really showcase true representation. And again, not excluding us out of that. Like the whole ethos of this brand is to bring people together who represent like that same first generation, perspective. But there's a whole spectrum even within that, right? And we don't shy away from representing different cultures, different parts of the world, and even now different disciplines, whether you're an artist, a creative, all the above, right? So it's just really important to get the real on just who people are, from our guests to ourselves, right? I think about if the first gems were a show, right? Like what exactly would that pilot episode look like, or what would that be called? So I don't know if you remember when I would, true story, I used to write to the Oprah Winfrey Network back when it like first started. And I was like, I
Yeah.
have this idea for a show. And it was based off of us being like the co-hosts and the, founders of this First Gems. And I was like, it's going to be about, four young Black, African Americans finding themselves, where it's like a coming of age story. But then like the season ender, or like the reunion, you're going to fly us back home, and we're going to find ourselves back home. Long story short, that never happened, but it actually has in real life.
Yes.
through
Wait,
this
bring it back.
through this podcast. But I had a whole name for it. It still can happen. It's gonna be called Regions, right? And it
Ooh, I
focuses on
like
our teenage selves and the different
this.
regions of LA that we grew up in. But how we would always come together and sort of just like, you know, catch up, swap notes, share stories, get advice,
Yeah.
and then go home. Like that's the whole purpose, is like to come into ourselves individually.
Yeah.
And so it's a comedy. I feel like there were a lot of moments in our adolescence of like uh-ohs and oopsies and girl, what the hell in
Mhm.
between. But like those moments, I feel like a lot of people maybe if not all, like creators draw from real life to influence the art that they make, right? And so our journey into building this brand and our story that influenced like us staying connected and just shifting the needle when it comes to cultural representation is just rooted in that. Like it's a simple storyline, but it's so real, and I think that's where it's beautiful. I think we were just saying that earlier. It doesn't have to be like super complex or complicated
Mm-hmm.
to tell me five different storylines in 1 hour.
Yeah.
This is not a Nollywood film at all.
Mm-hmm. Shout
But
out to Hollywood.
yeah, but it's like there are so many subtle ways to showcase like the beauty of staying connected, the beauty of family ties and relationships, a coming of age, of overcoming adversity, of just learning yourself, having grace in your downfalls or shortcomings, and just having people in your corner. Like that would
Yeah.
be what I mean, that's what we're doing. But that would be our our show for sure.
Let's let's make it happen. Like, what's stopping
Yeah.
us? Like,
Well, like I
I
said, Oprah, you gotta hit us
it's
up back.
crazy.
Hit me back, girl.
Look, Oprah, shout out to Oprah. There's more people we can hit up too now.
You're
So,
right. You're right. You're right.
right. And Oprah could be like, it was in my inbox 15 years ago. Well, girl, slow feed don't eat. So,
Girl. Sorry, Oprah. We still love you. That is hilarious. Okay, well, let's wrap this up for the audience and share some more of these gems that we've been dropping nonstop. Again, this episode is not meant to really like bash on anybody in particular, not at all. I really feel like we just needed to unravel on this topic and just share our perspectives on something that is only going to become more prevalent in society, in so like on social media. We're not telling people to stop
mhm.
making content that's relative to their lives, but I think it's just important to move with a sense of, again, intentionality. And we are advocating for everybody to reclaim the narrative. If there's something out there that is an inaccurate depiction of who you are, what you represent, you have the opportunity to either create your own content or reach out to the proper authorities to get that resolved. Right? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, just to reflect, I think for us, like what do we hope like changes about representation in the next 10 years? And this is for like future storytellers, creatives, people that are thinking to produce works of art.
Yeah. Um, I think I think we've said it throughout this episode too. I think it's like, I hope when portraying culture, I hope that the research is done.
Yeah.
Um, I hope that it's something that is led with intention. And I hope it's something that's not like stereotypical or like, I feel I just want to see more nuance with first gen stories, cultural stories, and yeah, I'd say that.
Yeah.
That makes it feel more real and present and less gimmicky and cringy.
Absolutely. Absolutely, girl. Yes, we need to dive deeper and not stay on the surface level. I think we are evolving way past that these days. Um, so on top of that, I would say I would really love to see more of like independent films, filmmakers, screenwriters get their shine when it comes to these stories for representation. I'm not always at the film festivals or, just spaces where we could find stuff like this, but being able to have more of those come through on Netflix, on other streaming services, the right way, right? Like just having more visibility. Because I think as much as we're talking about what we're not seeing, I'm sure it's somewhere and it's just not
Yeah.
being given the proper spotlight. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, we just need more real stories that, anybody can relate to, They all don't need to be sad. They all don't need to be happy. They all don't even need to follow the same cookie cutter format. But
Yeah.
I think as consumers of art, we know what feels authentic and what feels more performative. So just more real art. Give us the real. We need the real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I cannot go without saying for us here at the Fresh Gems, like you had alluded to season 4, Tanina, and I'm also very excited for what's to come because after 5 years of doing this, we are still growing, we are still learning, and we still have to get it right, sometimes. So I'm just really excited to walk it like we talk it,
Mhm.
and produce more content that really helps people feel seen in the proper way. And I think even on that note, the biggest takeaway is that representation isn't just about being watched and being seen, it's also about being witnessed and understood, as we said. So yeah, that is how I'm feeling about this.
That was so moving. I loved it.
I had to turn on my motivational speaker.
I feel motivated. What? Really?
Oh my god. Thank you. Well, I think that's it. I think that's what we got. Anything to say to the people?
Thanks for tuning in. Like, be you, be true, put out your art, and yeah,
I love
that's
that.
all that.
Absolutely. All right, well, Gems, yet another time of hanging out with us. Thanks for rocking with me and Tanina. And we'll see you on the next one. Take care.
Bye bye.
Peace.